Welcome into another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. This week we'll break down the football team who suffered its 7th loss of the season to St. Vincent on Saturday.
We'll talk some volleyball and some PAC soccer playoff breakdowns. The men and women still alive for a playoff spot. Plus, Nolan Porterfield will sit down with soccer player Nate Coomer. I'm Jack Hillgrove.
And I'm Dylan Cleland, and Jacket Sports Weekly starts right now.
For nearly 57 minutes on Saturday, the Waynesburg football team was in control of the St. Vincent Bearcats, but an 8-play, 75-yard drive in 3 minutes and 36 seconds, Dylan Cleland allowed the St. Vincent Bearcats to deliver Waynesburg's 7th loss of the season.
Yeah, I mean, really, Jack, as you said, most of the game, it was the Yellow Jackets that were in control. It started off early with a Justin Flack touchdown run of 68 yards. Extra point made it 7-0. St. Vincent did tie it in the second quarter, but Waynesburg ended up taking the lead into halftime 10-7, and so, or rather it was tied at halftime, and then right out of the half, Waynesburg kicked a field goal to take the lead 10-7. Game progressed, and eventually Waynesburg had the 17-14 lead with 4.5 minutes to go. St. Vincent gets the ball back, charges down the field very quickly and efficiently, and an 8-yard touchdown run from who else but Mike Stasko, who had 2 scores on the day, made it 21-17, and Waynesburg wasn't able to fight back into it.
Yeah, just some numbers for Waynesburg offensively. Mason Schrenker, 8 for 21 for 65 yards, a touchdown, and interception. Justin Flack, a guy that we'll probably talk about later on in the show, perhaps in our top 5s. 24 carries for 124 yards, a 5.2 yards per carry. Touchdown as well, as you mentioned, 68 yards. Cole Booth, 2 receptions for 42 yards. Bobby Gershaber, 2 receptions for 13 yards. Chad Walker had 3 for 6 yards. Justin Flack had a reception for 4 yards as well. Howie Metzger in the kickoff game, I thought, did a solid job as well, trying to put Waynesburg University in solid field position to start their drives. But I thought Waynesburg did what it needed to do offensively, Dylan. But in the defense, you talk about a defense that basically held Stasko in the running game for St. Vincent in check until that pesky fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, let's touch on the special teams real quick. You do have to credit Howard Metzger, who had a very good game on returns, but on the other side, Waynesburg was not able to punt the ball well. A couple of very, very short punts setting St. Vincent up with excellent field position, and that led to a couple of their scores, so that kind of came back to haunt them at the end of the day. The Waynesburg defense, they've been strong throughout the season. We've seen peaks. There was a lot of seniors on this team. Brett Hicks led the defense on Saturday with 12 tackles. Dan Verhovsik had 10. Ty McAleese and Brennan Seafick, each with an interception. Seafick's tied for 3rd in the conference in interceptions, and so this defense is making plays, and they're getting it done. But it's just not enough sometimes, and the offense isn't putting points on the board every drive to support them.
Well, I think the one thing you do have to look at as well is where Justin Flack is offensively, back-to-back 100-yard games. And while I agree with you that the Waynesburg offense isn't up to par, I think going into the St. Vincent game averaging around 15 points a game, which isn't going to win you very many football games. But Justin Flack, as a freshman hailing from Derry, Pennsylvania, was used to winning in high school and brings that winning and running mentality to Waynesburg as a freshman, and he's running the ball very, very well for the Yellow Jackets. You talk about the defense, a secondary that is ranked not just in the top of the PAC, but in the top nationally in all of Division III in passing yards allowed per game. And it's a shame that the offense hasn't been able to support that tremendous secondary play by Waynesburg's defense. And I think if they did, you look at Saturday as a game that they could have won, and you look at maybe a game or two early on in the season, that if the offense played how it needed to play, they could have won a couple of more games and been sitting here with several wins instead of just one.
Yeah, one other thing to note is time of possession. These teams were ranked 3rd and 4th in the conference going into it, and it showed they were pretty much split. Waynesburg 29-57, St. Vincent 30-03. Waynesburg had 17 third downs that they were not able to finish and get a first down on. So we'll see what happens. They're on the bye week this week, but 2 tough ones coming up, Case Western Reserve and W&J.
Yeah, much needed bye week coming into those final two of the top teams in the conference.
Switch over to men's and women's soccer now, which is a little bit of a different story. We'll start with the women. Both teams trying to make a late push for the playoffs.
Yeah, the men's team 5-8-3, and those 3 ties all become in the PAC. And a big win on Saturday, 5-1 against the Teal Tomcats. Nate Biondi, Dan Hott, David Brown, and Nate Coomer, who Nolan Porterfield will sit down with later in the show, was tremendous. He scored 2 goals and an assist as well. He had the assist on Nate Biondi's goal. So we talk about this playoff scenario. For the Waynesburg University Yellow Jackets, the men's side, we'll talk about the women in a minute, a little more fuzzy or pesky, if you will, of a playoff scenario. They got a win against Geneva on Saturday, and they're in. They'll be tied with Geneva in points, but the head-to-head, Waynesburg, obviously, if they win, they have the tiebreaker over the Geneva Golden Tornadoes and will be in the playoffs in 2019. And you look at this schedule and you break it down a little bit. I think that the men's team, especially as of late, has been spectacular. They started out 2-6, no ties, nothing, just have been beat 6 times. And those are 2 losses that were 3-0 and 5-0 in that run. And you switch, and that was more non-conference play. You switch to PAC play, and they have the tie. 2 of their 3 ties are to Geneva and Grove City, or Westminster, I apologize, in Grove City. And those are 2 teams that are going to be in playoffs. Westminster has 2 ties, but they're unbeaten, and they're at the top of the conference.
Yeah, they are. And so I think you take that away from a very impressive senior night for this team. I want to point this out real quick. 5-1 win over Teal on Saturday on senior night. Nate Biondi, Dan Hott, Nate Coomer, who we mentioned, he had 2 goals. So a couple seniors there getting some goals on senior night, which you love to see. But there's other guys stepping up as well. And so if this team can tighten things up, as they have the last 2 games, I see no reason why this team can't maybe make a push for the playoffs. Adam Dolan has played spectacular in goal for this team throughout the season. He had 1 goal allowed, but 2 saves. But he's played almost the entire matches at a time, which sometimes you won't see that with soccer goalies. And so you have to credit him for some strong play as well throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam Dolan, the junior goaltender, has some experience under his belt. Now we flip to the women, and we do that seamlessly because of the goalie transition. Autumn Blair has been spectacular in net for the women. Over 100 minutes this past week, has not allowed a goal. She's just a freshman.
We'll take a look at her numbers in 1 second. 1-0 win against St. Vincent is how the week started out for the team. Gina Benura with her first goal of the season in that one, and a 1-0 win at St. Vincent. And then in the Teal game, it was a 3-0 win on senior night. So both teams getting a win on senior night. Christina Galonka, Alicia Wagner, and Jess Silbaugh all getting goals in that one. But Blair, as we mentioned, played 90 minutes in that St. Vincent game, the whole game, and 6 shots, 6 saves. And then Blair, again, 76 minutes played and 1 save against Teal on senior night. And really, she's going to be a force to watch out for from years to come. If this women's soccer team can finish the season out strong, playoffs are a little bit farther of a hike for them, as you said, kind of blurry as to what will happen with them. But going forward, they have to be happy with what they have.
Oh, absolutely. On the season, Alicia Wagner, the team leader in goals, as she's 10th in the PAC with 5. And then Autumn Blair, who we talked about, 4th in the PAC in save percentage and goals against average, 6th in saves as well. And there was a period of time at the beginning of the season, Dylan, where Autumn Blair wasn't the definite starter in goal, and now as PAC play has been in the groove and now winding down, she has cemented herself in that spot. And she's only a freshman, and we can't stress that enough, how important her strong play will be down the stretch if the playoffs arise and in the next 3 years for her career at Waynesburg University. The playoff scenario for the women, they get in with a win against Geneva, and this is where it gets a little hairy, and a loss or tie against by Chatham against Bethany on Saturday, November the 2nd. Now, 2 teams with playoff aspirations. We talk about the men's soccer team and the women's soccer team, Dylan Cleland. Now we shift to the final team of this segment, the women's volleyball team. 3-21 this season, 0-13 in the President's Athletic Conference. But there's been some bright spots lately. A 3-2 loss to Chatham last Thursday and a 3-1 loss to Grove City on Saturday.
Yeah, so they haven't had a conference win all season. Their last conference win was the first one in a while, and that was at the end of last season. So moving through these last couple of matches that they'll have, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you have to hope that they can get a conference win, but they came close against Chatham. That was the first 3-2 set that they had since September the 16th, and that was a win against Pitt Greensburg. And so, the thing about this that Coach Kirby and the squad has to be frustrated about. They were up 2-0 in that.
Yeah.
Blew the lead and lost in all statistical categories once again, as they did in all 3 of their losses. And so that's something that you have to keep an eye on. That kind of stinks for the team as they're coming close. And there's a lot of improvements being made in individual aspects of volleyball on the court, but not able to get it done in the win column.
We've been friends for nearly 3 years. Have I told you I played volleyball in high school?
Just a time or two.
I cannot stress enough how painful it is to be up 2-0 in a match with 1 set to go and for you to just drop set 3. And then you drop set 4, and now you go to a tiebreaker to 15 in set 5 where mistakes need to be limited because it's only to 15 points. So where you have some wiggle room in a 25-point set, very, very drastically different in set to 15, and you just make mistake and another mistake, and they add up. The other team goes on a run, and you lose 3-2. It stings. And for Waynesburg University to be up 2-0 against Chatham, a team that hasn't been that great in the PAC this year, a very winnable opponent, stings. But you have to look at it from the bright spot. Alyssa Johnson, 33 digs defensively, and Hannah Colvin, 18 kills. One spot that I'd like to highlight real quick before we take a break, Dylan, is the 2 blocks as a team, and it's not very good. It's only blocked 2 shots as a team. We come back next on Jacket Sports Weekly. We dive a little bit into the winter sports season. Jake Nicholas will talk about the wrestling team and the upcoming Orange and Black Wrestle-Offs. Stay tuned on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you are really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
For the first time this year, we will talk about a new sport on this show, and that is wrestling. The winter wrestling season getting ready to start, and in to break down the first part of the season, which will be the Orange and Black Wrestle-Offs, and what to expect from this team throughout the season, is Jake Nicholas. Jake, what do you have for us today?
Well, Orange and Black Wrestle-Offs coming up this weekend, November 2nd, this Saturday. Basically, the Wrestle-Offs are going to be an inter-squad scrimmage for the Waynesburg wrestling team. I talked to Coach Headley. He said, they're just looking for a few good bouts between different wrestlers they have on the team. It's really important for them to just see what they've got conditioning-wise on the team. Really just to help them figure out what they're working with going into the season. So not really a big, like let's head to the gym and watch the wrestling team, but good for the coaching staff more.
And it's a pretty good opportunity to identify, Jake, what this wrestling team is, because it's the last couple of years that the wrestling team, you can make a case for it being the most successful team on campus, with the cross-country teams involved in there as well. But it's a team that's lost a lot, so it'll be a good opportunity, at least I think, for Ron Headley and company to identify where they stand in the PAC and where they stand talent-wise as well.
Yeah, and speaking with Coach Headley, he said, the expectations are still high. This team still wants to be PAC champions by the end of the season. They want, and at least a winning record. They want a winning record, and they want to finish the season as PAC champions. So, coming off 3 seasons in a row now, being PAC champions, even losing guys like Jake Evans, Ken Burrs. Jake Evans, a guy who's a former national heavyweight champion at the D3 level, they still have that bar set high for the team. And Coach Headley talking about how they have some good returners coming back for the team, some good young guys coming in, some freshmen that are going to contribute a lot. So you look at guys like Josh Kozlock, junior on the team, went 16-15 last year. Matt Lascola, a senior this year, 19-16 last year. Caleb Baxter, he was out with an injury last year, only wrestled in 1 match. Coach Headley said it's going to be big for the team for him to be back this season, so looking for a lot out of Caleb Baxter, who's a junior. Colby Morris is going to be a freshman, a homegrown product out of Waynesburg Central. Went 41-8 his senior year at Waynesburg Central, so big expectations for him coming into the program this year. Zach Mackall, a senior, 26-15 last year, and another freshman coming in, Rocky McGeary from West Allegheny, 34-2 in his senior year. So big expectations for the team from Coach Headley. Really get to see how well the coaching staff can develop this group of younger talent on the team now that they've lost their big wrestler in Jake Evans.
Yeah, and definitely some freshmen that you mentioned with impressive high school resumes. And I'm very excited to see Caleb Baxter wrestle again as a junior. As you mentioned, he was out last year, but he was a guy as a freshman that was very good for Waynesburg, and he'll contribute a lot this year, I'm sure.
Thank you, Jake, for your insight. We'll see how the wrestling team does as the season begins this weekend. Corey Fisher will be in next. He'll break down the volleyball team and what we can expect in their final weeks of the season coming up next on JSW.
Just like the Golden State Warriors blew a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals, the Waynesburg University volleyball team was up 2-0 against Chatham and lost 3 straight sets to lose at home. And here to talk about it, volleyball analyst Corey Fisher.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, first we'll go back to that Teal match on Tuesday to start the week. They got swept by Teal, who's a pretty good club, by 3 straight sets, 25-11, 25-14, 25-16. But another thing to take out of that is junior Hannah Colvin led Waynesburg with 6 kills, so she had another good performance. But to go to that Chatham game that you were referencing, they went up 2-0, and then they lost the 3rd set to Chatham, which is one thing. But then in the 4th set, they had them locked up and allowed 7 straight points to force that game 5. It's just, I feel like it's becoming a thing for an identity for this club, where it's now you have a team who's equally not as you're more talented, and you're also probably more well coached than this Chatham team, who has what are they 3-11 on the year in PAC play. So you are fully capable of winning this match. When you're up 2-0, you have to be able to finish one game to win that match, and to let them come back is not even. I think you said it earlier as a stinger. It's not even a stinger. That's just a knife straight in the heart, and I don't know how they're going to bounce back from that. Really, the rest of the way, I just can't see how. I mean, this is a talented club. Hannah Colvin's been playing out of her mind all year, and then they have a good libero in Alyssa Proper, who just keeps, on the defensive side, just keeps protecting them. So, I mean, they have the talent there. Now it's just, that's the most worrisome part of this club, I think, is now it gets to the pad of, can they believe that they win? Because the university gets behind them, and we believe they will win, but do they believe they will win in that locker room?
So moving forward with a couple of matches left, do you see this team able to pick up a PAC win this season? If not, what can they do to try to springboard in next year and maybe turn things around?
We'll obviously hope for a win. I mean, they have senior night, like we mentioned earlier. They do have senior night, so that always is it gets the morale up for that match. One last match for the seniors. I think they look optimistic for next year because they're pretty sophomore and junior heavy for what they like. Hannah Colvin's coming back, so that's huge for the team because she's just going to be better, and she's already their best player now. So I mean, that's key for the volleyball team going forward to the next season. They play St. Vincent this week coming up, and that's another PAC matchup that they would like to win. They're out of the playoff hunt, obviously, but still, I think it's nice to come into senior night with some momentum and see if they can get some wins to string together going into next season.
Well, the Waynesburg University volleyball team won on senior night last year, so that, I guess, we could take as a silver lining. Corey, thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
When we come back on Jacket Sports Weekly, Tanner Cyprowski will be in studio to talk men's and women's soccer. Don't go anywhere.
If you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter how you play or even what you wear. You just need to be there. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you.
We're back for our final analysis segment today on Jacket Sports Weekly. We're joined by Tanner Cyprowski. He's going to talk about the men's and women's soccer teams. Let's start with the men. Now let's take all of this into consideration and how this works. It's actually by a point system with men's and women's soccer in the PAC. So explain how the Waynesburg men can get enough points to get in.
Yeah, so right now Waynesburg's currently in 5th with a 2-2-3 record with 9 points. And you get 3 points for a win and 1 for a tie. And Waynesburg currently now has 3 ties in the PAC, so they get the 3 points off of that. So they're in 5th right now. Only the top 4 make it. And right now Geneva is ahead of them with 12 points. So if the men's team want to get into the playoffs, they play again on Wednesday against Geneva. So first and foremost, they have to beat Geneva no matter what. They can't tie. They have to win. So that would put them tied with Geneva. So then Geneva plays Westminster on Saturday, and Westminster's currently in 1st with 17 points, and they've been pretty dominant all year. They haven't lost a game. So if Westminster beats Geneva, it would come to a tiebreaker between Geneva and Waynesburg obviously would hold the tiebreaker because they beat Geneva on Wednesday if they were able to do so. So I think the way that Waynesburg's in the standings right now, I think they have a very good chance of getting into that 4th spot and making the playoffs.
Talk about the women.
Women is a little, you guys mentioned it earlier, it's a little bit more complicated. So right now, the women's side is 6th place with 8 points. Well, tied for 5th with eight points. Their next game is Tuesday against Geneva as well. Geneva's in 4th right now, and they're a pretty solid team, so Waynesburg might have some troubles there. And one of my main concerns is goal scoring, which has been a problem all year. Geneva's 2nd in the PAC in goals against per game, barely giving up a goal a game, and Waynesburg is near the bottom 3rd in scoring goals per game. So if Waynesburg, first and foremost, Waynesburg needs to win that game, and then Chatham has to lose or tie on Tuesday when they play Teal, but Teal is bottom of the conference. They've only scored 1 goal in the last 5 games. So I think the playoff hopes for the Waynesburg women are a lot lower than the men's, but ultimately they still have a chance, whether or not they just execute properly and win or not.
Do the men get in, and if so, how far do they go in the PAC playoffs?
I do believe that the men are going to make the playoffs because obviously their situation's easier. So they'll be in 4th, and then depending on Westminster and W&J are at the top at 1 and 2. So if Waynesburg plays Westminster, they played earlier this month, and they tied 2-2, which is a very good result. So if they're able to replicate what they did in that Westminster game, I think they have a good chance for an upset in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, the Waynesburg men in a very good spot. The women, if they're able to get into the PAC playoffs, what is their success rate according to you?
I don't see them winning. First off, I don't see them getting into the playoffs, and then I don't think they're going to do too well in the playoffs. But if they are to do one thing, it's got to be offensive focus because they've struggled scoring goals all year. Autumn Blair has been great in net, so if she's able to keep a shutout, maybe if she lets in 1 goal, that offense has to step up and score more than the opponent.
Thank you, Tanner. We'll hear more about men's soccer next. Nolan Porterfield sits down with men's soccer player Nate Coomer here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
All right, you ready for some baseball trivia?
Let's do it.
What year produced the most no-hit games in the big leagues?
7 no-hitters in 1990.
Wow, that's right. Now a question that's not trivial. How many children will witness bullying this year? The answer? 3 out of 4.
75%?
That's right. How many of them will say something?
Kids want to help, but don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm Nolan Porterfield, sitting alongside Waynesburg midfielder Nate Coomer. Nate, good to see you, man.
Nice to see you.
Now, I want to congratulate you, obviously, on senior night. You had a big win over Teal, and you specifically had a great game offensively with 2 goals and 1 assist. What would you say allowed you to take control of the game offensively?
My teammates, Nate Bione and Cam, helped me out. They gave me 2 easy setups for the goal, and I was just in the right place at the right time, I guess. So.
That's good. So this year has really been a standout for you offensively. 17 points on the year. It's a career high for you. What would you say is the difference between your game last year that's made you such a standout offensively?
Before I was playing deeper in the field, just trying to hold the ball, win the ball back, and this year I got to play more advanced positions, and we have a new formation now, so it's really been allowed to go up forward and get more points.
Elaborate on what's the new formation you guys have been working on?
It's 4-1-3-2, and I just get to stay a little bit wider, play balls in the middle, and get more into attack. So I enjoy it a lot.
That's good. So you close out the regular season against Geneva on Wednesday night. What do you say your team has to do to come out on top of this?
It's going to be a war. Both teams are fighting for the last playoff spot, so it's just going to come out to who has the stronger mentality, set pieces, and who can execute on the day. So.
Would you say that offense is going to be more important, or would you say it would be defense? Because this is a do-or-die game for you guys.
We definitely need to score. They have a great record of not letting up much goals, so we need to capitalize on our chances, and we should be fine for that game if we capitalize.
Good deal. So it's your senior year, which makes you one of the more experienced members on the team. How have you handled the leadership role and try to be a mentor to some of the underclassmen on your team?
Yeah, I just try to go out there and be the best example I can be every day, and I'm always there for anyone who needs to talk about anything or give advice when I can. So that's just.
Do you think that you have a lot of respect from the younger members of your team and such?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we're fairly close. We're pretty close with the freshmen this year, so I think there's a good relationship between the upperclassmen and lowerclassmen.
Good deal. So, as we mentioned before, it's your senior year. As your time at Waynesburg here is winding down, what will you remember the most about your time here at Waynesburg, not just as a soccer player, but as a student in general?
Definitely the relationships, like with the team and all the players I play with over the years, and it's just a great family that Woo Footy has together. So I enjoy that the most by far.
What would you say is like your best memory from soccer? I'd say.
Senior night was a pretty great night. We had all the families there together after the game, and it was a great celebration. So,
elaborate on the coaching staff and how much they've helped you grow as a soccer player over the last 4 years here.
Yeah, Coach Brad and Coach Zach and Coach Will are all great examples of like how we should be as people and great Christian examples, and they allow us to go out there and play, and it's a great atmosphere we have.
All right, so we're going to move away from the soccer field for a little bit. I want to talk about you academically. Just talk a little bit about your major and what some of your plans for the future are.
Yeah, so I'm an accounting major. I have a finance and economics minor. I'm looking to get anywhere with a CPA firm, and hopefully I'm going to sit for my CPA exam and just go from there after school. Yeah.
You have like a dream job that you strive for here?
I'm really trying to get into a CPA firm, so any like entry-level accounting jobs, and then work my way up. I don't really have a dream job per se right now, so.
All right, well, that's good. Well, we appreciate your time here, Nate. Thank you very much for what you've done for us, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
When we come back, Jack and Dylan will have the top 5 athletes of the week. Stay right here at JSW.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are the #1 killer of children 1 through 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Time now on Jacket Sports Weekly for myself, Jack Hillgrove, and my co-host Dylan Cleland to give our top 5 athletes of the week. Dylan, you're first.
We'll start with a freshman, and this is my 5th one, Kayla Stohan from the volleyball team. Despite the team struggling this year, she's been able to step up, and she leads the team in blocks with .47 blocks per set. She's also 4th on the team in kills per set with 1.18. Number 4, the freshman running back, Justin Flack. He has developed into a nice option for the Waynesburg running game this season. Saturday, he had 124 yards, averaged 4.2 yards per carry, 1 touchdown on the rushing side and 1 on the receiving game. He's done a lot this year for the team. Also from the football team, my number 3 is Brett Hicks, 12 tackles. He was all over the field in Waynesburg's loss on Saturday. This Waynesburg defense has played strong, and they did throughout the game on Saturday, just couldn't finish it off at the end. Number 2, senior Christina Galanka. She scored a goal for the women's soccer team on her senior night with just one minute into the game, and that was technically the game winner, as they just needed 1 goal to defeat Teal, even though they ended up scoring 3 and winning 3-0. And number 1, you just heard from him, Nate Coomer, 2 goals on senior night, 4 goals and 4 assists on the year, 18 shots on goal throughout the season. He's had an incredible senior year for the Yellow Jacket soccer team.
We have 3 similar names on our top 5s, 2 of them in different spots, 1 in the same spot, and we can all infer who that would be. Number 5, Christina Galanka, I have, as Dylan mentioned, she had a goal in their last matchup, and then an assist this week as well. The Waynesburg soccer team on the women's side is 2-0 this past week. Number 4, I had Hannah Colvin. She has 30 kills in the last 2 matches, and she leads the team this week in kills per set at 3 apiece. Number 3, Justin Flack, 24 carries, 124 yards, career high, 2nd consecutive 100 rushing yard game. Number 2, I have Autumn Blair, 166 minutes, just over 166 minutes played in net this past week with no goals allowed. She had 1 save against Teal and 6 saves against St. Vincent this past weekend. And number 1, Nate Coomer, 3 points against Teal in the win, including 2 goals. He's been fantastic, Dylan, and he's a guy that's got to step up if you're the Waynesburg's men's soccer team to make a playoff push.
We'll see what happens as they come down the stretch in this last week of the soccer season.
For my co-host Dylan Cleland, for our director Sam Hickson, our producer Hugh O'Neill, everybody in the back, and our analysts on Jacket Sports Weekly, we say good night and so long till next week when we talk more Jacket Sports.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.